Hello, beautiful people. Hope everybody's had a great week. I want to say thank you guys. I really appreciate you. You guys are awesome. Thanks for listening, watching, paying attention, messages, comments. You guys are great. So I really appreciate the support. So let's get down to business. For anybody that knows me really well. I'm really interested in investing. Investing for me started out as sort of a curiosity, and then it kind of turned into a hobby, and then it turned more into like a passion. I pay attention to finance and investing most of my day. Most of my day, I'm doing math and calculating percentages and things like that, and part of that is part of that curiosity. There's a learning curve you kind of have to go through to sort of understand money, finances, percentages, trends in the market, things like that. And you kind of have to pay attention to a lot of things to understand, what investment vehicles are right for you, where to put your money, things like that. And like I said, when I first started, I was just curious about it because I didn't understand it, so I was just curious. Didn't really grow up with like a financial background or in a household where we talked about finances. The only conversations we had about money in our house was how we didn't have any. Okay, so it wasn't like we were talking about investing or finances or anything in our house other than we were poor. That was really about it. So when I became curious about it, a lot of it was understanding investing and things like that. So one of the first things I heard or understood, because I tried to, in a lot of things you learn by just doing. So when I first started, I bit off way more than I could chew, made a lot of mistakes, just like you do with anything else as you learn it. And one thing I learned along the way was somebody, I forget who it was, but they had some video that said, and this is somebody that was like, experienced and was doing well for themselves, had been in, financing and investing for a long time. And so that's what their content online is about. And people are always asking them questions. And anyway, he said something to the effect of people are always asking me, I've got $500, how do I invest it? Or I've got $1,000, how do I invest it? And he said, well, if you've got $500 or if you got $1,000, don't invest it. You're broke. You're completely broke. Like there's no point in trying to invest $500 or $1,000. That's silly, because if you have that little amount of cash on hand, you're going to try to look for or try to find some sort of home run, some sort of cryptocurrency or something you think is going to be a home run, or somebody's going to give you a stock tip and you're going to go spend your $500 or $1,000 on one stock pick that may never turn into anything, and now you're broke again. So when he was talking about this money, he's like, hey, if you got $500 or $1,000, the best investment you can make is in yourself. And that is hands down the best investment advice I've ever heard or read or seen anywhere of all the content I've paid attention to, and everything I've looked and read into. So the advice is so important, because if you only have that much money, getting your IQ up is the first thing you need to do when it comes to like investing, or how to spend your money, how to save money, how to invest money, and how money works. So spending $500 on an education, just buying books, reading books, going to seminars, like just get your IQ up. Like if you don't know anything about investing, if you don't know anything about finance, then $500, the best way you can spend that $500 is on education, and spend that money on getting your IQ up to where whatever decision you do make, it's at least an educated decision. And spending that money on books was probably the best thing I ever did, because it helped me really understand how certain things work and how financial vehicles work, how money works, how percentages work. And this is like a really simplified example, but there's certain things that I absolutely will not do in protection of my finances. So for example, there's certain places I will not shop, because I know when I buy things from these stores or these types of products, I know that money's basically going down the drain. So there's certain stores, you probably, I'm not going to say them, but you know what stores I'm talking about. I don't go spend money at these stores because I know the return on that investment is going to be so low or negative that I just don't spend money there. So it's a behavioral change, and you don't know to change those behaviors until you've read a book or two. So once I sort of started understanding where to spend my money, how to spend my money, percentages, things like that. So for example, I don't, this is a very simple thing, but I don't give people gift cards. Like for instance, you go to the store and you buy these like Visa gift cards or whatever, and you buy $100 gift card, there's a, $3.95, $4.95, $5.95. You buy the card for $5 or $6, and then you give this person this gift card, and now they have the money to go spend whenever, wherever, that kind of thing. So a couple of things, and this is like I said, an oversimplification, but this is just an idea of how I do not spend my money, because I realize that percentages is what really matters. So for example, if you invest your money in the stock market and you get an annualized return of like 6% or 7%, that's considered a good return. That's like a solid return to get 6 or 7% return on your money. So if you take a $100 bill and you go buy a Visa gift card, and that Visa gift card costs $5 plus sales tax, so let's say it's $5.50, on that $100 that you just spent, you just lost 5.5% of your money just by making that purchase. So your heart's in the right place, you're giving somebody a gift, your intention is good, you want to give somebody something where they can go spend their money on whatever they want, but you just lost 5% of your money, 5.5% of your money, and it was instantaneous. A good investment is going to give you a 7% return over the course of a year, and you just lost 5.5% in a split second. So just little things like that, just understanding little things like that changed my behavior and my money spending behavior. And another thing is, if you were just say, give that same person, give them a $100 bill cash, they've got a little bit of negotiating power with that. So for instance, not only did you not lose 5.5% on your money by buying the card, now this person has more leverage on how they're going to spend it. So for example, if they go to spend that $100, and if they use the card, whenever they buy something or whenever they use that money, they're going to be paying sales tax on it. So you really didn't give them $100, you gave them like $92. So you've lost 5.5% up front. Now you've lost another 8.25%. Like we're in Texas, so it's 8.25% here. So you lose another 8% when you spend that money. But if you give that person a $100 bill and they take that $100 bill to a business, and I recommend small businesses because you have a little bit more leverage and negotiating power when you're using a small business, because it's not typically just somebody behind the counter at a small business that's just going through the motions, where if you go to a big business, they're just going through the motions, ringing you up, sending you on your way. But if they take that $100 bill to a small business, they've got some leverage and they've got some negotiating power, because with a $100 bill, $100 cash, you can negotiate a price down. Hey, you can go buy a $100 item, and that $100 item plus sales tax is, $108.25. They'd say, hey, I've got $100, will you take it? Most likely they're going to say, yeah, I'll take it. And you just made another 8.5% on that money, or 8.25%. So if you don't lose 5.5% up front, and on the back end when you spend it, you get another 8.25%, you're getting like almost 14% difference. And 14%, like just in those two exchanges, is double a regular normal return that you would expect to get from investing in the stock market or investing in real estate or whatever the case is. So getting a 15% return practically on a $100 bill in two exchanges is a huge difference between losing 5.5%. I mean, that's a huge swing. I mean, it's really, if you think about it, it's really a 30% swing. You went from losing 15% to gaining 15%. So you're talking about 30%. Like, imagine if you made 30% more money than what you actually make. Imagine if you got taxed less, 30% less than what you get taxed. I mean, just these numbers, you don't really think about them when you're going throughout your day, but these numbers are huge and they add up quickly. If you make $40,000 to $60,000 a year and you're talking about a 30% swing, that's a huge amount of money. That's like 15 grand a year. That's huge. That's life changing. That's life changing. So just like I said, this is like I said, it's a hobby kind of turned into a passion. Like I'm a nerd about numbers and percentages and things like that. So I know not everybody's into math and they got to have a calculator for everything. But I promise you, it's worth your time, it's worth your energy, it's worth the investment to learn how to use a calculator, learn how to calculate percentages, and learn where your money is going, and understand that once you give that money away, it's gone. You can't get it back. Once you have it, it's your job to protect it and Be smart with it. And if you're just going to give away 5.5% of your money, or if you're just going to give away 8.25% of your money because it's easy or because it's convenient, or you don't think it's that big of a deal, I mean, 15% of your money over the course of a year is more than double a good investment, and you're going in the negative. You're not having a positive 15% return on your investment. You're having a negative 15%. I mean, that is massive. So if you hate your money that much, I'll set up a Cash App. I'll set up a Venmo. If you hate your money, just send it to me. I'll give it a good home. I will find a safe, secure place where that money can hide and grow and not be beaten up and abused and wasted. Okay, so if you hate your money, you don't know what to do with it, send it to me. I know what to do with it. I'll take care of it, and it'll be all good. But yeah, back to the original point was get a finance IQ. I promise you, it'll change your life. It doesn't really take that long. There's books out there everywhere. I've read books on stock investing, crypto investing, real estate investing. I've read tons and tons and tons of books, and the best advice out of all those books is invest in yourself. Invest in yourself first, because nothing else is going to make sense. You're just going to be guessing. You're just going to be throwing money. It's like playing at a casino. You're just throwing money in a machine. You're just throwing money in an investment vehicle, and you're expecting some sort of return. You're expecting something positive to come out of it, and most likely it's not. So do some homework, understand compound interest, understand different types of investment vehicles. Understand different types of investment vehicles, because it will be life-changing for you. Where you spend your money, how you spend your money, how much money you make. I don't tell the story a lot, but for me, part of my education and part of me understanding finances was to be self-employed. You learn a lot when you're self-employed about how money moves and works, and taxes, and there's a lot of things that go into it. So it's sort of a education by fire. You just kind of learn. You have to learn if you want to survive. But very early on, I was a great employee, but I knew when I was an employee, I didn't want to be an employee. I didn't like the way corporations worked. I didn't like the way things operated. I wanted to be able to change things. I wanted to be able to do better. And I worked my butt off. I worked my tail off for these companies, and I was always excelling. I was always doing really well. Head of the pack, leader, and I knew I was making these companies money. Like, that's really what it came down to, is like my labor was making these people money. And I looked around at the other people working there, and I didn't even understand how the company was profitable with these other people, but I knew for sure that they were making money on my output, on my work. And it had to be significant enough to where it was worth having me there. So I'm like, okay, if they're paying me X amount of dollars, then they have to be making X more. They have to be making quite a bit more off of my labor. So I knew early on that even though I made a good employee for the most part, I had my issues, but I made a good employee for the most part. I knew the long-term picture for me was not to be an employee. Even when I started getting tattoos everywhere, you always hear people chirping and you'll never be able to get a job, and how are you going to get a job, and da-da-da-da. Well, first of all, when it comes to chirping, and people that talk, I think it was Babe Ruth. I'm probably wrong about that. The internet always lies about quotes and who said what, but I think it was Babe Ruth that said, the loudest noise always comes from the cheapest seats. So people are always going to chirp, people are always going to talk, they're always going to say stuff about you, but remember, those people are not invested in the outcome. They do not care about your future. They don't care about your progress or anything like that. So there's always going to be people chirping. You're never going to make them happy. Don't worry about it. Just move on, live your life. So like I said, while I was getting tattooed, there was always people talking about, you're not going to be able to get a job. You can't, you'll never be able to hold a job. You'll never be able to get a job. How are you going to go to a job interview like that? And the whole time these people are saying this, I'm just thinking to myself, like, I don't want a job. Like, I'm not looking for a job. I don't want to go to a job interview. Like, that's not who I am. I'm not the kind of person that's going to have a job. I don't want a job. I want to build something. I want to make something. I want to do something. And having a job was not in it. It wasn't it for me. I even, as some of you know, last year I ran for city council here, local, and I got elected to city council. And recently they updated the city's website, and they put me on there as holding a place on a city council. And I got a message from one of the guys at the city that does all the social media and the website and all that stuff. He's like, hey, we need to get like a bio from you. Just send me some information on what you want in your bio. He goes, if you want, you can send me your resume, and I'll put something together for you. I'll let you proofread it. We'll put it up on the website. And I kind of jokingly, I just responded back to him, what's a resume? Like, what is that? Like, I don't even know. Like, it's been so long since I put together a resume that it's an afterthought. Like, that's a life that I don't live. It's so far away from where I am that I can't even imagine sitting at a computer and making a resume. I can't imagine sitting in a job interview. I can't imagine applying for a job. Like, those things are so far out of the realm of possibility for me. Like, it's a non-issue. It's never going to happen. Like, and I say never. I don't have, only one person decides that, and it's not me. So I can't predict the future. That's in his hands. But if it were up to me, I'll never be sitting in a job interview. It's just not in my framework. It's not in my mind. Like, I always knew that I was going to earn a living on my own, somehow, some way. Now, in that process, I did not realize, I thought I was going to go work for myself. That was the dream. That was the goal. That was the objective. I was going to go work for myself. Well, once I actually got out on my own, I realized to build anything significant or useful, or to get any sort of momentum, that I wasn't going to be able to do it alone. I did not realize when I set out on this adventure that how many people it was actually going to take to be self-employed, to work for myself. Like, I didn't realize, even when I was telling myself that I wanted to work for myself, it never dawned on me that I was going to have employees. Like, I know that sounds naive and I know that sounds stupid, but I could not see that far in the future that whatever it is I was dreaming of and whatever it is I was going to build or make or create was going to require so many other people's cooperation and require so many other people's effort and work and time. Like, I never even dreamed of having employees. Like, that wasn't part of the plan. I just thought I was just going to be out working for myself. I didn't know what that meant. I literally did not know what that meant, but I knew I was going to be out working for myself. So I learned very quickly that if I was going to build anything significant, again, I'm not saying that I do have or we do operate something significant. It's significant to me. It's important to me. But we're not a Fortune 500 company. We're not on the stock market. We're not publicly traded. Like, we're not significant in that sense, but we are significant to me. And what we do here is significant to our team. What we do here is significant to our community. So it's very significant to me, but I did not see that as that potential when I first started. And I think that goes back to something I was saying in another video before, is that when you start off on these journeys, like, you don't get to see the destination before you start. You may have an idea of where you're going in your mind, but you have no idea the challenges, the obstacles, the difficulties, the change of direction, the pivots. You have no idea what's going to happen between you and that destination. And a lot of things are going to change. Your destination may even change once you get going on down the road. Like, even for me with the automotive repair, like, that was never really part of the goal. This is, and even the furniture store, like, that wasn't part of the plan. Like, it became part of the plan. It was an obstacle that presented itself that I took on as a challenge and created something out of nothing with the help of a lot of people. I did not do that on my own. I can't do anything on my own. That's impossible. Like, I don't think really anybody does anything on their own. So it was a learning experience, and luckily for me, like, most of the time during that process, I was paying attention. I was trying to learn. I was trying to listen. I was trying to become better, and make something out of myself. And hopefully, now that I've had employees for how many ever years it's been, I mean, I'm hoping that's wearing off on the people around me, and they're trying to make something out of themselves. And I even tell people now. So here's another example. Early on in my career, especially when I was hiring employees, I'm very transparent about the part that, I'm a selfish person. I think about me a lot. I have a lot of ego. I care about my goals and my dreams, and I think about myself a lot. That's not a secret. People that know me are like, oh yeah, that's him, So I'm not saying that I'm this perfect person and I'm loving and giving, and I'm not that person. Okay, like I need a lot of work. I know I need a lot of work, and I'm working on getting better every single day. But early on in my career, when I was hiring employees, when I brought them in to do the interview and all that, when I felt like things were going to go good and we were going to hire this person, one of the things I said toward the end of the interview, once we worked out all the details about days and weeks and pay and position and all that stuff, one of the things I said toward the end was, hey, congratulations and don't let me down. And in my mind, I was putting a little pressure on this person to let them know in my own way that I had confidence in this person and I believed they could do the job, and I wanted them to give their best for my benefit, for me to have a positive outcome out of this interview and out of this employment situation. And I said that for years. Hey, don't let me down. Don't let me down. Don't let me down. And the more I do this and the deeper I get into this and the more interviews I do, I understand that is a bad thing to saddle somebody with, to tell them, hey, don't let me down. And I realize now what I should have been saying and what I should say now is, don't let yourself down. Like, this is your opportunity. This is your chance. You can make the best of this. I didn't ever dream of, making the kind of success out of nothing that I was, or where we started or where I started. Like, I had no idea that this would ever turn into what it is. And again, I'm very aware that this is insignificant and it's small, but to me it's huge. This is a big deal. I tell people all the time that my businesses are like my kids. These are like my children, because they're start from nothing and you turn them into something, and you're with them every single day. It pains you when they're sick, when they're not doing well, when things aren't going well, when people say bad things about you or whatever. Like, it hurts whenever things aren't going well. So, getting sidetracked, sorry, but I realize that when I'm doing these interviews, like, what matters is that this person needs to not worry about letting me down. They need to worry about doing their best and giving their 100% effort and committing 100%. Where I was going with that was, I never dreamed of I never thought, for instance, now money has changed a lot in the past 2 decades, but I never dreamed of making a 6-figure income. Like, that was so bizarre, like, to even think. Like, if I told you the numbers of the kind of money that our family or our household made when I was younger, and then I told you 6 figures, you'd be like, yeah, you're never going to be able to bridge that gap. You're never going to be able to make that leap. And it wasn't a leap. It was small steps over a long period of time. But if you understood that amount of money, that household income, and then you saw a 6-figure income, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that's significant. So that's why it's significant to me. But when I say that, I never dreamed that there were going to be people working for me that made that sort of income. Like that, again, I know money's changed a lot. A 6-figure income is not what it was 20 years ago, but I never in my wildest dreams thought there would be people working for me. Again, I say working for me, that's not a nice way to say it. Working with me, working for the company, being a part of the team. I never dreamed that those people could make that kind of money. That's insane to me. And it's for me, I'm happy to do it because I'm not giving them this. This isn't a gift. This isn't a, hey, I think you're a good person, so I'm just going to pay you a bunch of money. Like, these people are earning this money. They're adding that much value, not only to this business, but to this community and to the people they come in contact with. And they add value to the marketplace, and they add 6-figure value to the marketplace. And I have a couple of them, several. Like, it blows my mind that there are that many people in my near circle that produce that much value out of what we do here. So again, I'm just kind of getting sidetracked and starting to ramble, but I'm telling you, like, it's just you need to invest in yourself, and it may seem and it may feel selfish in the beginning because you have to focus on yourself. You have to put on blinders. You have to cut out the rest of the world. You have to get rid of a lot of bad habits. You change your friend group. Spend less time with toxic family members. Like, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's going to feel really selfish in the very beginning. But fast forward 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and you'll see the impact of what you learned along the way affecting your environment and how it affects the other people around you. And you'll see what your $500,000 investment in yourself, how that pays off over decades, and how that affects people around you, and how that makes them better, and how you can teach and show and train these people to invest in themselves, be better, be listening, learning, watching, paying attention. And if you learn to be a leader in different ways through management or finance or whatever the case is, people will follow you. And if you're doing things right and you're leading a good life and you're taking care of business and you're making a good living and you've got your finances in order, the people around you will see that example and they will do it too. So that $500,000 investment that you think you're making in books or in seminars or whatever, it's so far above and beyond worth it that you should do it, and you should do it again, over and over and over again, because those investments, they almost don't show up on paper most of the time. A lot of those books that I read and I stored all this information in my head, like it's just second nature now. Like like I said earlier about spending money, like I'm just conscious all the time about how money moves and how it affects people around me, and how I spend my money and how I invested in my education and how that affects people around me. I want to be better, and in turn, making myself better makes other people around me better. And that is a conscious effort. Like I said, I want to be better, and it's causing one of the effects of me being better is the people around me are better. Not only do I choose different people to be around, but the people that get in my circle or get in my atmosphere, like it rubs off on them. And I that makes me feel better to see them have stability, have their finances in order, have the car they want, have the house they want, have the life that they want. That makes me feel better than sitting in interviews saying, hey, don't let me down. And that to me is, again, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just trying to give you an example of, because I don't know where your mind is. I don't know what you're thinking all the time. I don't know how you feel about yourself. But if you get in the mindset of being selfish in the sense of you're going to make yourself the best person you can possibly be, because at the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month, end of the year, end of the decade, the small steps you take to be the best possible person that you can be in every area you could possibly be that, once you see that and you see how it affects the people around you, you see how it affects your environment, it sees how you approach people, how you approach business, how you approach everything. Once you see how it affects you and everybody around you, you will understand that those investments are worth every single penny, worth every single nickel, every single dime, and they're worth more than the monetary investment, any monetary investment you ever make. No amount of money in the bank is going to make you feel as good as having a tree of fruit around you, of people that are blooming and blossoming and growing and producing. That is the most rewarding thing, and you can't get that from just learning a thing or two about finance. You have to change a lot of things in your life. Like you really have to put in the time and effort to make those changes, to be this kind of person. And I've got a long way to go. Anybody that's around me knows I have a long way to go, but I've also come a long way too. And I think now this is probably more. I'm running out of time. I'm gonna have to cut this off. But I'll end it with this real quick, and then I'll try to pick this up later, maybe in the next video. But when I was younger, even sometimes still now, I felt inadequate as a male, felt inadequate as a man in a relationship. Even though I was usually pretty smart with my money, I did blow a lot of money spending on dumb stuff. But even though I was somewhat financially responsible, I always felt inadequate as the man in the relationship, because I feel like it's the man's responsibility in the relationship to insulate his girlfriend, fiance, wife, kids, his immediate family. It's his job to insulate his family from the world, from whatever could possibly happen. And it comes in little forms. It comes in the forms of, reliable transportation. It comes in the form of a house. It comes in the form of health insurance. It comes in the form of having savings in the bank. Like, I felt inadequate in certain relationships because I didn't feel like I could insulate us from anything. I felt like anything could happen at any minute and we were effed because I didn't do my job as a man to insulate the people around me, particularly somebody that I cared about and I loved. I didn't do a good enough job of insulating us from whatever could possibly happen. And as a business owner, I feel like I've come a long way in understanding that part of my job as a business owner is the same thing. My job is to insulate us from the circumstances and situations and bad things that could possibly happen. So anyway, I'll cut it off here, guys. I'll try to pick up on that later. Again, I really appreciate you guys for listening, paying attention, watching. Thanks for the feedback. If there's anything else you want to hear, let me know. If you want to hear less of something, let me know that too. I can take some criticism from you guys because I trust you. So I love you guys. Take care of each other. We'll see you next time. Bye.